some of you, not all of you, but some of you owe Chris Ballard a legitimate apology. You do. After the NFL draft this year, Chris Ballard walked up to the podium and he said, guys, I tried. Okay, we made some big offers. We tried to move up in, we tried to move up in the NFL draft. We made some big offers. No one would let us move up. And we found out last night that Chris Ballard was telling the truth. And I came on here and I said, I think he's telling the truth. People were like, no, Jonathan, you haven't been here very long. He was lying. Then we find out last night that he offered the Giants for the 6th pick. The Colts offered the 15th pick, the 46th pick, and a 2025 second-round pick to move up to number 6 to potentially draft Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, Roma Dunze, whoever it was that they wanted. And look, Giants general manager didn't want to do that. He didn't want to move back that far. Okay, and then we're going to get some, he should have tried harder. He should have offered more stuff. But here's the issue with that. Because this is just the way that sports media and the way that this stuff works. You have people that like you. You have people that don't like you. If Chris Ballard had offered every pick in the draft, the people that like Chris Ballard would have been like, that's a good trade. That's a good trade. And then all the people that didn't like him would be like, you gave up too much stuff. Oh my gosh. So that's just the way that it works. I just appreciate that he was telling the truth. He did make an attempt. That is a good offer for the number 6 overall pick. And the Giants just didn't want to move down to 15. Makes sense. I get it. Right? So Ballard's trying. He also made an attempt for L'Jarius Sneed in the offseason, who opted to go and play for the Titans. Now, praise the Lord for Chris Ballard. Statement it's the first time I've ever said it. It's the second time. I said it earlier in the show, but hey, whatever. Praise the Lord for Chris Ballard and his offensive and defensive line philosophy. The biggest story so far coming out of Colts Tramp is the Achilles injury to Samson Ebukam, or Ebukam, however you say it. I went back and I listened to an older episode of the Green Light podcast hosted by Chris Long, played in the NFL for a long time, all those things, where he interviewed Chris Ballard. This interview happened about a week ago. And during the interview, Chris Long asked Chris Ballard his philosophy on how he likes to build his teams. And in it, Chris Ballard gives a very detailed response, and he hits on something very important that we're seeing play out this season.
Yeah, I think it matters. It's a big man's game. And of course, there's going to be exceptions, that go on and play. We try to slant towards, more height, weight, and speed at each and every position. Now they gotta have good tape. We're not just taking all height, weight, and speed guys, but they gotta have good tape. But I do think it's a big man's game. I do think that those big men disrupt the game more, and especially third down. And look, I am front. It's just the way I've been trained in this league, both O-line and D-line, just very front driven. And I just believe as the season wears on, they're going to win games for you down the stretch. And those are the two positions, next to quarterback, O-line and D-line. Like when you start, if you don't have enough depth there, guys wear down. And even more, if you have injuries at the position, finding replacements is almost next to impossible. So you better load up on them in the offseason when you get a chance.
He's exactly right. And that's what he's done. He has loaded up on offensive and defensive linemen in the offseason. He's right, because when those guys get hurt, there aren't good players just like sitting out there that you can grab to put on your offensive or your defensive line. Okay, there's a lack of options once guys get hurt and you're having to hit, in-season free agency stuff. Okay, so it is a good thing that Chris Ballard has built the roster this way with Samson Ebukam's injury, right? And yesterday was the first day that the Colts had media availability since it was announced that Ebukam has been ruled out for the year with a torn Achilles. So obviously, a lot of the conversation, a lot of the questions yesterday during the media time was about Ebukam and who's going to fill his shoes, who's going to replace him and hopefully duplicate or do better than the production that he gave us last year. And so I'm about to play this clip from Shane Steichen because he was obviously asked. And in this clip, Shane Steichen names 3 players specifically that I would like to discuss. I got to be honest, I'm excited about all 3 of them. Here is Colts head coach Shane Steichen discussing who's going to get more time on the field because of the Ebukam injury.
Yeah, Kwity, Dio, and Latu. I mean, it's time those guys need to step up. I mean, they're good players, and now obviously Latu coming in rookie year. Obviously, we like where he's at, and we got to keep repping that and go from there.
Shane Steichen giving you 3 players right there: Kwity Paye, Dio Dangbo, and Laiatu Latu. And I want to start with Kwity Paye, who is going to have the best year of his career this year. Kwity Paye is coming off the best year of his career last year. We saw him set a career high with sacks with 8.5, which is a solid number. Okay, there were only 23 players in the NFL last year who had double-digit sacks. So 8.5 sacks, that is good production, especially on a Colts team that rotates defensive linemen with the depth that they have the way that they do. Now, if you wanted to push back, say, well, Jonathan, he wasn't that good last year. The stat you would point to is that he only had 17 pressures, which is a fair thing. But he made them pay off with 8.5 sacks. Okay, he's a good run defender who doesn't miss tackles. Okay, his missed tackle percentage last year was 0. He did not miss a tackle last year. That is impressive. And I think he's going to be even better this year. Now, I think one of the things we have to keep in mind with Kwity Paye, and one of the things that Kwity Paye haters love to just kind of throw out there is that, oh, he was a first-round pick. He should be awesome. He wasn't like the number 3 overall pick, like a Joey Bosa or a Nick Bosa was. He was the 21st overall selection, okay? Like, come on now. Like, let's be serious here. And I think for a guy who was selected 21st overall, he's come in, he's been a solid presence on this Colts defensive line. He's coming off of a really good year last year with 8.5 sacks, okay? And the other thing that we've seen from Kwity Paye that has me excited, and part of why I think he's going to be even better this next year, is we have seen a steady increase in production from him since he entered the NFL. His sack and tackle numbers have increased every single year. And I think that'll happen again because he's up for an extension. This magical thing happens in every single sport. When guys are up for extensions, they just tend to play a little bit harder, and they just tend to play a little bit better. If you don't believe me, Chicago Cubs, Cody Bellinger, last year signed a 1-year deal, wanted a long-term one. He was awesome. Signs, a longer-term deal with the Cubs. And guess what? He's not very good this year. Look at the history of Paul George's career. Okay, if you look at his contracts when he was playing with the Clippers, he consistently played less than 60 games the first 4 years of his contract. And then the final year of his contract, this last year, he played in like 70. When players are in contract years and when players are up for contract extensions like Kwity Paye is this year, they tend to play better. Okay, that combined with the fact that Ebukam is not playing all year, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Kwity Paye was a double-digit sack guy. He might have been last year if he hadn't missed a game. Okay, the work that he's put in during the offseason has been very well documented. Okay, trainer went on a podcast. Other players have talked about it. He's lost 7-8 pounds, which is, that's a good thing. Okay, which you would think would help him win with quickness off the edge. I think we're going to get, at minimum, another good year from Kwity Paye because he was good last year. And I don't expect him to regress when he's only like 25 years old. And I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if he had a great year, if he had a double-digit sack year. Okay, he has clearly put in the work during the offseason. Okay, he's playing for a contract extension, which is extra motivation, and he's shown consistent improvement during his career. And I think that that is a trend that we will continue to see from Kwity Paye. Moving on here to Dio Dangbo. Oh, man, coming out with the takes today. Dio Dangbo was better than Samson Ebukam last year. He was. Okay, Dio Dangbo was another player that was mentioned by Shane Steichen when he was asked who's going to have to step up with Samson Ebukam being out for the rest of the year. And Dio Dangbo is probably the one that I'm most excited about. He's going to have another good year as well, like Kwity Paye, because like Kwity Paye, he had a good year last year. He had 8 sacks last year. And you're like, Jonathan, that's only 8 sacks. That's whatever. He had 8 sacks last year, and he played 80 less snaps than Samson Ebukam and Kwity Paye. He had more pressures than both of them last year in 80 less snaps. When Dio Adangbo was on the field last year, he got to the quarterback, and he was the best pass rusher the Colts had. The only Colts player that had more pressures than Dio Adangbo last year was DeForest Buckner, who played almost 250 more snaps than he did. Based on the numbers, when Dio Adangbo was on the field, he was the Colts' best pass rusher in only his 3rd year. The dude can flat out get to and get after the quarterback. And with Samson Ebukam not playing this year with the torn Achilles, which is terrible, that should give Dio Adangbo more opportunities to be on the field during passing situations. Okay, Dio Adangbo produced at a high level last year when he was on the field, and he should get ample opportunity to do that again this year with Ebukam being out for the whole season. If he can just produce at the same rate that he did last year, he's going to have another good year. He could potentially have a double-digit sack year, which would be awesome for a guy who only started 1 game last year. Okay, Dio Adangbo, I like him. I think he's going to be good, and I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. Now, let's move on to the player that everyone's excited about, Laiatu Latu. This year's first-round pick for the Colts, selected 15th overall, first defensive player off the board, all those things. There's been a lot of talk pre-draft, during the draft, post-draft, during training camp. There's just been a lot of talk about how good this kid is and how he's NFL ready. And look, he needs to show that immediately. And it seems like he's showing that based off of what we've heard coming out of Colts training camp. Colts offensive tackle Bernard Raymond had some thoughts after going up against him yesterday and some one-on-ones and things of that nature in full pads. Here's what Bernard Raymond had to say about Colts new rookie Laiatu Latu and how he's performed so far through training camp.
He's a great player right now, but he's just getting better and better every day. From what I've heard, he's a great rookie too. He's doing what he's told to do, so he's getting all the snacks and everything. No, but on the field, seriously, he's impressive. He seems to fit right in with the defense. He's quick, he's physical, he fits the run game. It's hard to block him in the run game because he's so twitchy, and then same in the pass pro as well. You gotta bring your A game against him, and it makes all of us better. So I'm glad we have him.
That was Bernard Raymond, Colts offensive tackle, discussing Laiatu Latu, Colts new rookie. And look, it's one thing to hear coaches rave about a player, okay? Because Laiatu Latu could have the worst practice of his life, and whoever the defensive line coach is, and Gus Bradley and Shane Steichen would figure out some sort of way to be like, yeah, he was, not as good as we wanted today, but he did a couple good things. We're going to go look at the film. And, that's the answer that you would get. It's a completely different thing to hear someone that you compete against admit that you're a good player. And Bernard Raymond, laid out everything that we had heard about him coming into this season. Bernard Raymond called him physical, called him twitchy, called him explosive, described him as hard to block, which is great. I don't care if you're twitchy, physical, or, explosive or whatever. Just be hard to block. That's really all I want from my defensive lineman, really from everyone on the defense. But that's the thing, him talking about not only the pass rushing ability, but also his ability to defend the run, which is, equally as important for a defensive end, right? Because you have to have guys who can defend the run. That's how you slow down every offense. So it's just nice to hear what Latu's competition was saying about him. And the more I hear people talk about Laiatu Latu, the more excited I find myself getting. And it seems like we're only 4 practices in, right? Today's practice number 5. It seems like through, 4 practices, it seems like the Colts have found, at a minimum, a decent player with their first round pick who plays hard. Shane Steichen was asked about Latu yesterday, and usually whenever coaches are asked questions like this, they talk a lot about the physical and things of that nature. That is not what Steichen discussed. Here's Shane Steichen on Leatu Latu.
I did, and you watch all these rushers in the draft, and they're all talented, but his motor that he had after plays, you could see it. You know what I mean? Even if he gets around the edge and the quarterback steps up, boom, he is turning and running and trying to go get him. And that's what really stood out to me about him was his relentless effort.
Relentless effort. It's an important thing. That's an important thing. Okay, because there's plenty of guys in the world who are extremely talented but don't play with effort, and because of that, they don't succeed. I don't know about you, but I want guys on my team to play hard every play. And it seems like that's what Leatu Latu is. He's that kind of a player. And it also makes a lot of sense. If you hear Latu speak at all, this dude is clearly filled with passion for playing football. It clearly brings him joy. And everything that Shane Steichen said right there, I think, reflects that. And look, if he plays hard all year, and if he's as talented as Bernard Raymond is saying that he is in that prior clip, then I don't know how he doesn't have a solid rookie season. Now, when I say solid rookie season, the key word there is rookie, because rookie edge rushers usually aren't that great. I don't think Leatu Latu is going to have a double-digit sack year after going back and looking at rookie seasons from edge rushers. All right, double-digit sacks for a rookie is a lot. There is an adjustment period for young rushers in the NFL, and Chris Ballard hit on that recently when he went on Chris Long's podcast.
And you know this as much as anybody, it's hard for young rushers in this league. They're not used to the techniques and the talent that they're about to deal with on the offensive line that they had. It's nothing against what the kids playing in college, but these are grown men playing tackle and guard and center in our league that have been well schooled and trained. And there's a little bit of an adjustment period. But to Latu's credit, and it'll be interesting to see over the next month, how he continues to develop. He is an option rusher, and he is extremely instinctive and athletic. He does some freaky things just with no pads on. So we're excited to add him to the group and think we have a really, really good defensive line group to throw at people this year.
That was Chris Ballard talking about Leatu Latu and just expectations for the season. And he's exactly right. Every young pass rusher has it takes them a while to adjust to playing in the NFL like it does for quarterbacks. It takes them time to adjust, offensive linemen, everyone. But edge rushers especially, it takes them a bit to adjust to the NFL game. For context, Will Anderson Jr. of the Houston Texans, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. And he didn't play that well. He had 7 sacks. That's it. And he was the 3rd overall pick. Drafted, 12 spots in front of Leatu Latu. 7 sacks won him Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. It's not very good. That doesn't sound overwhelmingly great, right? But here's the thing. When it comes to these guys, rookie pass rushers just don't always play at an elite 11, 12, 13 sack level. It takes them time to adjust to playing against grown men that have been playing offensive tackle in the NFL for 6, 7, 8 years or whatever. It's very different than playing against, a 19-year-old freshman from Iowa. Just is. So, look, if Latu gets to 7 sacks this year, I'm going to call that a successful year for him. Because that's what Will Anderson had last year. And he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. So, excited about Latu. All the conversation around him has been great. I just think that we need to have proper expectations for a rookie edge rusher.